Hello. We will now have an in conversation with Chris Cozy and Daniel Miller. They're going to chat about 40 years of TG and show us something a little about modules. Coming up, a round of applause for... Turn this light down a little bit.
It's a bit bright.
Well, Chris, that was great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very
Really,
much.
a lot of very recognisable sounds in there.
Yeah,
of course.
Of course.
Yeah. What did you pick all the sounds for the module?
Yeah, it took quite a long time. I went way back through our archive, to cassettes, to all sorts of medium, and spent weeks chopping things up and getting samples. And because I mean, you can hear that it's TG, but there's nothing.
Totally,
yeah. But I had to be careful. That I didn't want to lift stuff just vanilla.
Yeah.
Some stuff's been stretched and squeezed and reversed and manipulated, but it's still the essence of TG, and I think you can hear that in the samples.
Oh, totally fine.
Yeah. It was a labour of love.
Because it was, yeah.
Tip Top came up with this idea. It was their idea to do this 40th anniversary module, and they said, and initially it was just to do a card of sounds, TG sounds. So I did these sounds, and they liked them so much. They said, "Would you do another 128?" Which,
great,
256 samples. That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So one card has got fairly short percussive TG sounds, and the other card has got longer loops and drones, but they're all primarily TG based. And then Tip Top came back and said, "Well, how about if we do a module that's got new livery, TG livery, and do you have any ideas for how you'd like to change it?" So I suggested that we do some random options, typically TG. So this module differs from the existing, because there is already a module called One, which is a sample playback module. And this TG one differs in that you can program it to just select samples randomly. So you don't, which is what I was doing there. And when I was triggering them from the sequence, I didn't always know which sample I was going to get, which makes for some unique sort of performances, because it's never going to be the same time.
But it works musically, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and you've got quite a lot of manipulation. You can tune, you can twist the sound. But yeah, it's it's only this big, but it's really versatile. Yeah. It's great.
Yeah, I was thinking of the first time I saw you play. Actually, kind of.
Where was that?
The London Filmmakers Co-op.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Notorious. Yeah. Where that was in July '78, I think.
Yeah.
And
chairs were flying.
It was Fred Vermorel.
Yeah.
Who was a writer. I don't know.
Fred and Judy.
Fred and Judy.
Vermorel, they were there.
Yeah.
And he stormed the stage with a chair, didn't he?
He did. Yeah.
He threw a chair onto the stage.
The whole chain of events.
And then there was an altercation between Jen and.
Was it the Raincoats?
Slits.
Or the Slits?
I think it was a mix of the two, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was.
So Jen swung his bass guitar at one of the members of this other band.
Broke her arm.
And then somebody threw a bottle across the room, and it just pandemonium.
It started out with Fred Vermorel, I think, on the chair.
Yeah.
I remember because there was like a, I don't know, remember the Filmmakers Cup, but there was kind of a balcony, or there was a sort of a. Yeah. And I remember seeing him running. I thought, who's this guy running down the, running towards the stage with a chair? Because I didn't know who he was or anything.
No. Did he ever tell anybody why he did?
He wanted to make it an event.
It was a situation.
Situationist.
He did it on purpose. Yeah.
Well, he certainly did. He certainly made it an event.
Yeah.
But that's where that's the first time I saw you, and I came down to a bit nerdy. I just released my single as well, and.
Warm Leatherette.
Yeah, and I said I was chatting to Sleazy.
Yeah.
Just having a nice little chat and stuff. And then the Scottish fellow came up as well. and that was Robert Rental,
Oh, right.
who's just about a single out as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's where I first met Robert Rental, and we then later on formed a short-term, sort of short-lived musical partnership, and then ended up on the same stage as you at the Cryptic One Club in Bishop's Road.
That was another eventful night as well.
Yeah, it
wasn't
was. Yeah.
So
You're the common factor here.
Had we signed Robert then, or?
No, I think that was a lot later. Yeah,
Yeah.
No, he just put his first single out, and I remember it well.
Yeah. He was great, Robert.
It's funny how you can remember things from a long time ago.
It is, isn't
I really can't remember everything that happened yesterday.
Is it an ageing thing?
I think it's an aging thing. Yeah.
Never mind.
And I remember the first time I saw the second annual report in a record shop was in Virgin in New Oxford Street.
Oh, I used to go there a lot, yeah.
That's funny, and coincidentally, that's where Robert's wife worked and Thomas Lear's wife worked. They both worked behind the counter.
I remember that.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a citation, there was a sticker on it with a quote from Peter Gabriel.
What was that quote?
But it was I can't remember what it was, but it was a very incredibly positive quote. And I thought, and if you think about in the context of the time, Peter Gabriel was the arch kind of prog rock antithesis of whatever was going on at the time.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't sure it was a piss take or not. But then later on knowing Sleazy's connection with it, so it made sense. But
right,
Yeah, he probably gave him a copy of the album, I would think.
Yeah, exactly. And he did this amazing quote,
I never saw that. So did they put it on then?
I think Virgin must have put it on, yeah.
Is it a quote about TG?
Yeah, it was about the record, saying this is the most amazing record ever recorded or something. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Peter Gabriel was really nice when Sleazy died. He did some really nice quotes then as well.
Yeah.
Because he worked on The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway.
Yeah, he did quite a few. Sleazy was the first one to use the Polaroids where they manipulated the Polaroids. Yeah.
So tell us a bit more about what was... Sorry, were you going to say something?
No, I was just going to say that you came through to us quite late on then, 78, to a live gig.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was quite late.
But we'd met before then,
Yeah,
hadn't
we had.
Because I remember coming to your house. Yeah, I met your mum.
Really?
Yes.
Well, before that?
Yeah. You were up near Stroud Green, was it?
Golders Green.
Golders Green, yeah. I remember you invited me round and showed me your gear, and because I had a friend that lived across the road from you. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, weird.
That was very early on.
Yeah.
Because you were working on the single when we came round.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
We came round. I didn't go round, did I?
Maybe it was me and Jen.
Yeah.
God, memories.
Yeah.
I know, yeah, because that's what I said. 78 was late, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well,
we met before then. Yeah, because...
Well, you started playing live in 76, didn't you? Was it 76? Yeah.
At the Air Gallery was the first one, was it?
Air Gallery then, RCA.
Yeah.
And then on the road after that.
Yeah, the Cryptic One Club gig was...
Another legendary
gig.
Yeah, that was. I think we had bouncers, didn't we, on the door that were looking after someone, not like the Supremes, but someone like that.
Yeah.
We'd heard that.
Oh, it was Terry the Pill, wasn't it?
Terry the Pill.
Terry the Pill.
Yeah, he used to put the fly post things around, but he also knew that the bouncers were looking after some pop star. And we said, that'd be really nice to have them do.
Tina Turner or someone like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, let's have their bouncers on the door for Cryptic One. And they were really heavy.
Yeah, it was a very, very strange atmosphere.
Yeah.
Well, there's a strange atmosphere anyway. It's downstairs in the crypt of the church in Bishop's Road.
Spooky, wasn't it? Yeah.
And they thought there was it was promoted by Colin and Kevin, who ran a company called Final Solution, and they wanted to put all the new electronic bands on a bill. I think that was the concept.
Yeah. Okay.
And they asked me and Robert to do something separately, and neither of us wanted to. So after your gig that I met Robert, we sort of started. We were kind of in touch. I thought, why don't we do it together?
Yeah.
Do that then. But I remember there's a lot of the kind of personality, the sort of punk celebrities down there at the time.
It was full of them, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I think Susie was there.
Yeah.
Gun Lyman, probably.
Yeah, it was a nutty night. Really nutty night. Yeah.
So the Modulars thing, Chris, you've been working with Modulars for a long time, haven't you?
As long as you, probably, yeah. I go way back, 77, I think I got my first modules, and then I had this weird thing in 1999, I sold everything. I just had this sort of midlife crisis. Just got rid of everything, all my old analog gear, my modular.
Yeah.
And then within a year of doing that, I was building it all back up again. I could,
Of course, yeah.
just the call of it, come back to us. But it is a bit addictive.
A bit, yeah. Especially since the kind of arrival of Eurorack.
Eurorack changed everything.
Yeah.
It really did. Yeah.
And that's the format that your modules.
And that's the Tip Top modules that we're doing with Tip Top, the TG modules. They're in Eurorack format. So unless you have that, you can't. It'd be pointless buying them. But they're worth getting if you've got Eurorack. The salesman here.
Yeah.
I use my modular a lot, a hell of a lot. I always have done. And my new album that's out in March on Mute, I used.
Nice.
It's like
We told him to say that.
There's a lot of modular on that, a lot of hardware.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm still, but I have this weird thing with modular because I've mentioned it to you before. I get a bit overwhelmed by all the modules.
I know. Yeah.
It's just if you've got a big system. I mean, I've always had quite a big system, but the one I've got now, physically, it's not as big as the one I had before, the one I sold, but it's actually got 10 times more modules in it.
They're smaller.
Because they're smaller, yeah, and you can get more in. You think, oh, there's a new one, I'll have to get that. That looks good. And you get it. You try it for a couple of weeks, and you think, okay, I've been there, done that. Sell that, get another one. And there's always a hole in your module, in your module rack to fill. I'm sure you've been there.
Yeah, I mean, it really is addictive, and you really, you stop, there's a T-shirt I saw that said, I bought a Eurorack and stopped making music, because all you do is play with the modules,
You do, yeah.
But I like the scene around modules. I mean, I remember I first started going to Schneider's Bureau, which is the kind of famous in Berlin modular shop in Berlin, which is just run by enthusiasts.
It's fantastic, yeah.
And it really reminded me of the early days of independent labels, and actually the shop really reminded me of the original Rough Trade shop.
It is, yeah.
Because it was like run by people who weren't selling you anything; they were just enthusiasts, and they were like the musicians who bought them, and
they
the manufacturers
swap ideas with each other. And
exactly. It was really open, and still is, and the manufacturers used to come in as well.
Yeah.
And Andreas Schneider, who runs it, is a real character. He was tearing his hair out, just like Jeff and Richard, because all these little manufacturers, usually just one person manufacturer, were always late delivering stuff, just like we were late delivering our records.
Yeah. Very similar scene.
Really similar.
I love all that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of camaraderie, and people are quite willing to help other people if they've got problems or they're stuck on this or that, or they don't know how to do something. There's a lot of information sharing going on.
There's no kind of. That was the same in the early days of independent label.
It was, yeah.
Everybody was very open, and because everybody was like starting from scratch. Nobody knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
Well, and it was the excitement of something new.
Yeah.
And you just work together,
I think I like about Eurorack is that you don't. It's not. It can be a very expensive hobby. It can be really expensive, but to get into it, you don't have to spend a lot of money.
No.
You can just buy a little case, a little rack, and buy a couple of modules. You can be making
I'm
sounds
laughing
straight
here because
away.
when I say, what do you want for Christmas? He says, I want one of these. It's the most expensive thing I've ever bought anybody.
That sequencer.
The sequencer, Ellen. Yeah. But that's what you did in your album with, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
it is.
it's money well spent.
It was, yeah.
But yeah, don't give me the small ones that don't cost a lot. Get the big
What
ones.
else was in your rack today? Or what, you had 4 TG.
I had 2 TG1 prototypes and I had 3 1 modules. Basically the same, but they have a different livery. And I had the firmware from the TG modules on the older modules. So basically I had 5 TG1 modules, and each one was set slightly differently, different random settings and things. And they were being driven by a little, really small 4-track sequencer that I could change in real time. So I could trigger the modules from the sequencer. And the modules were going through some echo and reverb units.
Yeah.
And that was it for those. And then underneath that I had a small Roland synth that was doing the sort of bubbly bass underneath. And pretty much 90% of what you could hear was the TG modules, the sounds on those. And it's just all in a little suitcase that I built.
It's weird because when you think about where those sounds came from at the beginning, you remember we used to take all that gear. The speakers are like wardrobes, aren't they?
Yeah.
And then you get it down to this tiny little suitcase.
And the memory cards that come with these modules are so small. They're like this big. You could easily lose them. Yeah, they're like a fingernail.
Micro SD cards.
Yeah, micro SD cards, and they've done them beautifully. They're black and they have a little TG flash, and it says TG1 and TG2 on the cards. They're a work of art, and the new panels they've done have TG flash and they're in black, whereas the ones that they do at the moment are white, so that people will know if they've got the TG1 module. It's really good. Buy them.
When's it being released? Do you know when it's being released?
I don't know when it's being released, and I don't know the price. The current module, the one, is 150 quid.
Yeah.
And this is going to be a little bit more. The TG1 will be a little bit more because it's got 2 cards with it, and it's a limited edition. But we're trying to keep the price, reasonably. We don't want it to like a premium, but it should. It was meant to be out in November, but maybe it might be December now. You know how these things work.
Yeah. Has it got CV control?
Yeah, it's got a volume knob. So I was mixing with my modules just from the modules. I didn't use a mixer because each module has its own volume control.
Okay.
So if you just feed those into like a passive mixer, you can use the modules as the mixer if you've got like a whole bunch of them. And then there's a selector for selecting the sounds. It clicks, it goes round and round, and you just keep going round because there's 128 samples. You just keep rotating it until you find a sound you like. But you can control that with a CV signal, and you trigger it from either a keyboard or a sequencer. It's got trigger input, and it has an LED. It has this button that lights up that changes colour, and by using combinations of the button and the knobs, you can set the module into different states.
Okay.
So you can switch the random feature on and off and do stuff like that. Have it looping. I had one of the sample players was just looping constantly.
Okay.
And you just change the sound and the next one just loops. And one of the random features we have on the new module is that you can set the loop point to be random. So every time it triggers from a different loop point. So if you've got like a vocal sample, it will just keep chopping it up and playing it in different places. And you can use your own cards. If you've got your own micro SD cards with your own sounds, you can put those in it as well. It doesn't have to be the TG sounds.
So that's a pretty small case you had there.
It is,
pretty small case compared to the equipment you used to carry around, as you said. And it's obviously because of the volume controls, you can really just have those, can't you? And do a whole live set with just those and maybe a sequencer.
Yeah. In fact, I think Tip Top sell them you can either buy them individual or in boxes of 4. So people buy, So you can make up a little rhythm kit. You can put your own cards in and just trigger them from a sequencer or something.
So we're redundant now then?
No. No.
TG in a box.
Yeah, imagine if TG had those. God, we would have all had them, wouldn't we?
Yeah, we would have done, yeah.
But you're doing a crystallizer.
Yeah, I should mention that, sorry. Finn, who's here, who's doing the crystallizer with us. We're doing a range of crystallizer modules for the Eurorack format again. There's a complete module that has basically the original crystallizer, and we're also doing individual modules. So there's a VCA, a VCF, an oscillator, and there's a preamp as well. And you can feed guitar through these or synths, anything, and they're really good for mangling sound. I can't wait to try these TG1s with the crystallizer because that's going to be absolutely mind-blowing. You could make a whole system just with the crystallizer and the TG1s. But the crystallizer is going to be available very soon, within a matter of weeks. We've been working on that for 2 years now. It's been a lot of development. Roy Gwynn, the original designer of the original crystallizer, has been working with Finlay Shakespeare and myself on developing this. And they're ready to go to market now, and they sound really good. If you go online and just search for crystallizer, you'll find them online. There are videos as well of us using them.
And were you using them at the beginning, right at the very beginning of TG? Or?
The original crystallizer, for people that don't know, it was a small box of effects that was Roy Gwynn published in Practical Electronics in '77, and I built it and put it in a different box. I built it from his design, put it in a different box, and called it a gristleizer. It was called something else when he designed it. And then I made one for each of us, for Cozy to put her guitar through, for Jen to put his voice through, for Sleazy to put his tape through, and then I had one for my synths. And people heard this, and it became the sound of TG. It's that sort of chugging sort of sound, overdriven sound. And then I made them for friends. In fact, Cozy used to add yours up until 5 years ago, didn't you?
Yeah, plugged it in, it went
Died.
and it died in the studio, didn't it? It's really sad. But yeah, we've only got the one.
Yeah, of the original.
Yeah, yours has gone missing, hasn't it?
Yeah. So our manager a few years ago, Paul Smith, he suggested that maybe we work on it again and release a new version. So he put me in touch with Finn and Roy, and for the last 2 years we've been working on this. Now it's ready to go.
I think you built one for Robert Rental as well, because
Robert Rental had one.
When we played live, and he had it, and he had his Wasp synth going through it.
That's right, and he had a bigger one as well that I think either he built or someone built for him. He had like a bigger version as well, because the circuit was in public domain, so anyone could build it. I built him one. Yeah,
great sound.
Yeah, it is really good.
Can't wait to play with that.
Yeah,
when it comes out.
definitely.
More modules.
More modules.
More modules.
Yeah. So should we do the Q&A?
Yeah, that was very nerdy, right?
Sorry, sorry if it was too nerdy for some people. Yeah.
Has anybody got any questions? We'll take 2 or 3 questions.
Anyone?
This gentleman here.
Hello.
Just very quickly, second annual report. When I was very young, I had it, much younger than I am now, I had it in a celluloid edition, and it had not Slugbeat, but T.F. Ghouls on it. So I always remember that you had the backward song. But at some point it was said that that was a pirated version, that it wasn't legitimate. Is that true?
That's true.
Yeah. It was a bootleg.
But that's a celluloid records in France, yeah?
Yeah. I think I've still got letters to and fro, arguing with them about it in my archive somewhere. But that wasn't an official release.
Oh, really? That was naughty.
Well,
What was the official one? Was the Fetish one after the industrial one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then the Mute one after that.
Fetish Records launched on. Well, we gave them the album so that they could start their record label, basically.
But we didn't give it to Celluloid.
But we didn't give it to Celluloid, no. There's big arguments and,
As usual.
yeah, there always is. But yeah.
Any other questions for anybody here? Do you want to know about the early days of Robert Rental and the Normal?
It's okay,
years ago?
Yeah?
Just a quick question, really. I mean, when you started, through this time period, as your perception of music and what music is changed or developed through those years, and if so, how so?
It's deep.
I don't think we analyse it to that extent. We just sort of like go from what interests us on one point to another. We're not into kind of sort of repeating what we do. Having said that, now he's done all these TG samples, but that's something else. We're hoping people I would be hoping people get them, use them, and then take it a different way, a different direction, and make it their own in a way. Which I think is what we've always done, isn't it? We've moved from like TG, and when we started with Chris and Cozy and Creative Technology Institute, we did sort of ambient albums and more rhythmic stuff and with vocals and things. But we just go from one thing to another, and like when we did Carter Tutti Void, it was a completely different thing again, which was great.
I think you can overthink these things sometimes, and sometimes you just got to surrender to the music, you know.
Yeah, I think it's the sounds inspire us more than sort of sitting there and thinking, what can we do that's something new, or, you know, it's just working with sound and getting excited about it.
Any other questions before
One
we
at the
then,
back.
Simon?
Hello.
Hello.
Does it surprise you that Throbbing Gristle is still so revered all these years later?
Constantly. I don't get it. Lots.
Hate those questions.
Oh, you put us on the spot now. I like, I mean, a lot of our friends, as you can imagine, make music, and I like a lot of music that our friends make. But I don't want to, it's like having a kids and one's a favourite kid, you don't want to say which one, you know.
Yeah.
I'd rather not say, really.
I think for me, if I hear anything, I tend to like things that I can't tell how it's done, so I can suspend that part of me that would analyse it, and that's the kind of music I like listening to, or even sort of pop music that I could never do. I mean, a really fantastic pop song is it's a skill and a really crafted. I love that. So I can appreciate that because I can't do it. and other people that do things that like I said, that I can't figure out how they've done it, or I don't know where the sound sources have come from, then I can get into it in its own right, and I think that's more interesting for me.
I do like seeing bands live, especially experimental bands. Yeah, that you have to have been there moment when you get something that really works in that live moment. I really enjoy that.
And then yeah.
And then yeah.
I don't get that at all. He plays that when I'm out.
Guilty secret.
Anyone else? Don't be shy.
What do you play when Chris
Yeah.
is out? What do you play when Chris is out of the house?
Leonard Cohen, probably.
Yeah, because he hates it, or Nico. Or sometimes I have Blondie on really loud.
I don't mind Blondie.
You don't mind Blondie, but yeah. That's the kind of pop song that I love. But, no, things like that really.
Yeah.
Or if I'm out in the car on my own and I have the radio on, I play that
I
really.
hear you coming down the village.
Yeah, but it's a bit dangerous really. Do us a kind of.
Yeah.
Favourite pop song?
Oh,
Dancing Queen by ABBA.
oh, don't. You see how that's all sentimental stuff, that ABBA. It is, because he was so into ABBA, and when I used to be out stripping and they used to be playing it all the time in the pubs, I'd get quite sentimental because I'd just be thinking about Chris. You know? and I did, and you bought me Dancing Queen, didn't you, to dance to when he wasn't there? So I'd be stripping or whatever, topless dancing to Dancing Queen.
Actually, Sleazy gave me that, and then I gave it.
Yeah.
So he got a signed copy.
Yeah. Oh, I want signed. You didn't give that to me.
Oh, maybe that's not.
No?
That's the one in the archive.
Yeah. My one's got my rubber stamp Scarlet on it.
Yeah.
So that no one nicked it in the pub, so I could take it home around with me. Anybody else?
More here?
Yeah. Sorry, I was just wondering what is a good way quickly to make a guitar sound really, really horrible?
Put it through a crystallizer.
Yeah. Not think of it as a guitar, and then just use it as just something that makes sound. I mean, I think I love my guitar more now than I ever have done.
You play it more now than
Yeah.
you ever have.
I don't know why, but I've just fallen in love with it completely. I think because I've got different effects units, really. The software and stuff that I use, I can really get something different out of it.
Guitar rig is quite good for mangling guitars.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah,
That's software, it's not hardware, but
but that's what I use when I play live.
or hardware, you use your Boss pedals, don't you?
Yeah. As a guitar rig is the sort of foundation, and then murder it on top, basically. But it's just a thing, I don't know. I just respond to whatever the sound's going on, and it's usually different when we're sort of running through things in the studio just to figure out rhythms or wherever we want to take things, and then we go in a live situation, and the PA gives it a whole other level. And so basically what I figured out I'm going to do, or might do, just forget it, because it sounds so different in a live situation. It's really hard to see you all.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Yes, one more here. Yep.
Do you record on cassette medium format?
Cassette? No. I have a cassette machine, but I don't really use it anymore. We just record straight into a computer. Sometimes record into, I've got a small Tascam handheld machine that I have hooked up to my modular system that just records onto memory cards. I sometimes record via that if I need to get something quickly on the fly. But usually, I just record into a computer. Just raw, and then just to capture what we want. How about you, Dan?
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a little portable. I just record into Ableton.
Not cassette.
Not cassette. No. Not cassette. No. Definitely not cassette.
No.
Though cassettes have that special quality.
They do. I quite like.
You can't replace, really.
Yeah, that's true.
Especially you overdrive them a little bit.
Yeah, I like the sound of cassette.
Mm.
Yeah.
More than vinyl.
I do. I'm not a fan of vinyl, funnily enough, because it scratches too easily. I get really nervous around vinyl when I'm putting it on the record deck. Yeah.
Question at the back. Do you want to chat?
Hi.
Hello.
Will you ever perform Genesis again? Not as in Phil Collins.
There's more chance of that than.
I think we'll wrap up now.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for coming along.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.